When your children don't respect you, do this instead. 6 powerful ways to regain respect. The quiet heartbreak of being unseen. There comes a moment, a turning point in every parent's journey when you realize something has shifted. Perhaps it happens during a family dinner when your carefully considered advice is met with an eye roll. Or maybe it unfolds over the phone when your grown child dismisses your concerns with an impatient sigh. Whatever the trigger, the realization hits hard. The roles have changed. You've spent decades pouring your heart into raising your children, sacrificing sleep, sanity, and sometimes even yourself, all in the name of love. Yet now, as they grow older, you find yourself grappling with feelings of invisibility, frustration, and even anger. They no longer seek your approval. Instead, they seem to take it for granted. Worse still, some days you feel like a burden. And here's the painful truth. Demanding respect won't bring it back. Arguing or pleading only deepens the divide. Respect isn't something you can force. It's something you inspire. Today, I'm going to share 6 transformative ways to regain your children's respect without fighting, resentment, or guilt. These strategies aren't quick fixes, but profound shifts that will change not only how they see you, but also how you see yourself. Are you ready? Let's begin. Action 1. Stop chasing their approval. One of the most common mistakes parents make, especially as they age, is trying too hard to win their children's approval. You bend over backward, saying yes when you mean no, rearranging your life around theirs, and suppressing your own needs in hopes of earning their gratitude. But here's the brutal truth. The more you chase their approval, the less they respect you. Respect isn't earned through self-sacrifice. It's earned through self-respect. When you constantly adjust yourself to fit their expectations, you teach them that your voice doesn't matter. And once they believe that, it's easy for them to overlook you. Take Margaret, for example. Once a fiercely independent woman, she gradually let her children dictate her life. She silenced her opinions, ignored their disrespectful remarks, and told herself she was keeping the peace. But what she didn't realize was that her silence was eroding her dignity. Her children stopped valuing her because they saw her as someone who would always agree, always accommodate, and never stand up for herself. If your children don't respect you, the first step isn't to demand it. It's to stop acting like you need it. Set boundaries. Speak your truth, even if it makes them uncomfortable. Because the moment you start respecting yourself, they'll start seeing you differently. And in time, that respect will come back to you. Action 2. Don't argue. Lead by example. When your children dismiss your opinions, talk over you, or treat you disrespectfully, your natural instinct might be to argue. You may want to remind them of everything you've done, hoping they'll finally see the error of their ways. But here's the reality. Arguing never works. Think about it. When was the last time you convinced someone to respect you by yelling louder or making a better case? Respect isn't won through words. It's earned through presence. It's about how you carry yourself, how you respond to challenges, and how you maintain your composure when others try to test your patience. Consider Frank, a retired teacher who had once commanded respect in his classroom effortlessly. At home, however, things were different. His grown children ignored his advice, dismissed his concerns, and sometimes even laughed at his attempts to correct them. Initially, he fought back, determined to prove he deserved their respect. But the more he argued, the worse things became. Then one day, Frank made a pivotal decision. Instead of engaging in verbal battles, he started leading by example. He spoke calmly, carried himself with confidence, and stopped chasing respect with words. Slowly but surely, his children began to notice. They saw a man who wasn't desperate for their approval, who didn't need to prove himself, and who simply exuded strength. If your children don't respect you, don't fight them for it. Show them what respect looks like. Hold your ground with grace, and they'll follow your lead. Action 3. Withdraw emotional dependence. As parents, we often pour our hearts into our children, seeking fulfillment and validation from them. But there's a harsh truth we must face. People, even our own children, respect those who are emotionally independent. When you rely on them for happiness, affection, or attention, you place undue pressure on a relationship. Instead of feeling grateful, they may start feeling burdened. Helen learned this lesson the hard way. A devoted mother, she had always prioritized her children's needs above her own. As they grew older, she found herself waiting by the phone, hoping they'd call. When they didn't, she called them instead, too often. Her constant reminders of how much she missed them pushed them further away. To them, her calls felt like obligations rather than connections. Then Helen decided to focus on herself. She picked up new hobbies, reconnected with old friends, and rediscovered her passions. Surprisingly, her children began reaching out more frequently. They admired her newfound independence and started respecting her time because they saw her as someone with a full, meaningful life. The lesson is clear. The less you depend on your children for emotional fulfillment, the more they'll value your presence. Show them that you can stand strong on your own, and they'll start respecting you, not out of obligation, but because they genuinely admire the person you become. Action 4. Set boundaries and enforce them. Boundaries are the foundation of any healthy relationship, yet many parents struggle to set them with their children. If you allow your children to speak to you disrespectfully, dismiss your opinions, or treat your time as expendable, they will continue doing so, not because they're bad people, but because they've learned that such behavior is acceptable. Robert, a retired businessman, faced this exact challenge. His adult children interrupted him mid-sentence, brushed off his concerns, and criticized his lifestyle. At first, he tolerated it, convincing himself it wasn't worth the fight. But eventually, he realized that every time he stayed silent, he was teaching them that their behavior was okay. So Robert took a stand. When his son interrupted him, he calmly said, "I'll continue speaking when you're ready to listen." When his daughter dismissed his opinion, he replied, "You don't have to agree with me, but I expect you to respect me." Over time, his children began treating him differently. They saw that he valued himself enough to demand respect. And because of that, they started giving it to him. If your children don't respect you, ask yourself, are you allowing it? If so, it's time to set boundaries and enforce them firmly but kindly. People will treat you exactly how you let them. Action 5. Stop giving without appreciation. Generosity is a beautiful trait, but it loses its power when it's taken for granted. Many parents fall into the trap of giving endlessly, whether it's time, money, or support, only to receive complaints or indifference in return. When you give without receiving appreciation, you don't build love or respect, you build expectation. George understood this all too well. For years, he bent over backward for his children, helping them financially, dropping everything to assist them, and rearranging his life to accommodate their needs. But instead of gratitude, he faced entitlement. His children expected more and more, rarely acknowledging his efforts. When he finally needed their help, they were too busy to offer it. Determined to break the cycle, George stopped overextending himself. He began setting limits, offering help only when asked, and saying no when necessary. At first, his children resisted, frustrated by his newfound boundaries. But over time, they started valuing his generosity because they realized it wasn't unlimited. If you feel like your children don't appreciate your kindness, take a step back. Ask yourself, am I giving more than I should? What would happen if I stopped? By teaching them that your generosity is conditional on respect, you'll transform the dynamic entirely. Action 6. Build a life outside of them. Finally, one of the most powerful ways to regain your children's respect is to show them that your happiness doesn't revolve around them. While it's natural to prioritize your children when they're young, clinging to this dynamic as they grow older can backfire. If you've made them the center of your universe, they may start seeing you as someone who has nothing else going on. Eleanor, a widow in her late 70s, experienced this firsthand. After her husband passed away, she poured everything into her children's lives, checking in constantly, offering unsolicited advice, and expecting them to fill the void left by her spouse. But instead of drawing closer, her children pulled away. They visited less frequently, their calls became shorter, and Eleanor felt lonelier than ever. Then she made a choice. She joined a book club, traveled with friends, and volunteered at a local community center. She stopped making her children the center of her world, and something incredible happened. They started reaching out more, curious about her new adventures, and admiring her independence. If your children don't respect you, ask yourself, do they see you as someone with a full, meaningful life, or as someone waiting around for their attention? When you show them that you're living, not just existing, they'll start seeing you in a completely different light. Action 7. Practice active listening without judgment. One of the most overlooked ways to rebuild respect is by truly listening to your children, without judgment, interruption, or defensiveness. Often, when our children express themselves, we instinctively respond with advice, criticism, or corrections. But this approach can make them feel unheard and unvalued, leading to further disconnection. Listening isn't just about hearing words, it's about understanding emotions. It's about showing your children that their thoughts and feelings matter, even if you don't always agree. By practicing active listening, you create a safe space for open communication, which fosters mutual respect. Consider Susan, a mother who struggled to connect with her teenage daughter, Emily. Every conversation seemed to end in frustration because Susan would jump in with solutions before Emily had finished speaking. "You're overreacting," she'd say, or "here's what you should do." Emily eventually stopped sharing altogether, feeling dismissed and misunderstood. Determined to repair their relationship, Susan decided to change her approach. The next time Emily came to her with a problem, Susan bit her tongue. Instead of offering advice, she simply listened, nodding occasionally and saying things like, "That sounds really tough. Tell me more." To her surprise, Emily opened up like never before. Over time, their bond strengthened, and Emily began seeking her mom's input, not because she felt obligated, but because she trusted her. If your children don't respect you, ask yourself, am I truly listening to them? Do I interrupt or judge too quickly? By practicing active listening without judgment, you'll not only earn their respect, but also deepen your connection with them. Action 8. Model accountability and humility. Respect isn't just about how others treat you. It's also about how you hold yourself accountable. When parents admit their mistakes and take responsibility for their actions, they model integrity and humility. This behavior teaches children that everyone makes errors, but what matters most is owning up to them. Unfortunately, many parents struggle with admitting fault, fearing it will undermine their authority. However, the opposite is true. When you acknowledge your shortcomings, you demonstrate strength and authenticity, qualities that naturally command respect. Take Michael, for example. As a strict disciplinarian, he rarely apologized to his kids, believing it would weaken his position as the parent. But as his children grew older, they became increasingly distant, perceiving him as rigid and unapproachable. Realizing he needed to change, Michael started apologizing when he was wrong. Whether it was losing his temper or misunderstanding a situation, he made a point to say, "I'm sorry. I handled that poorly." At first, his children were skeptical. They weren't used to seeing vulnerability from him. But over time, they began to soften. They respected him more, not despite his apologies, but because of them. He showed them that being human doesn't diminish authority, it enhances it. If your children don't respect you, reflect on whether you're modeling accountability. Are you quick to blame others or justify your actions? By embracing humility and taking responsibility, you'll inspire greater respect and trust. Action 9. Celebrate their strengths and achievements. Children crave recognition, not just for their accomplishments, but for who they are as individuals. When parents focus solely on correcting behavior or pointing out flaws, it can erode self-esteem and damage the parent-child relationship. On the other hand, celebrating your children's strengths and achievements fosters a sense of validation and admiration. This doesn't mean showering them with empty praise. Genuine acknowledgement goes beyond surface-level compliments. It involves noticing their unique talents, efforts, and character traits, and expressing pride in those qualities. For instance, consider Rachel, a single mother raising two boys. She often found herself criticizing them for poor grades or messy rooms, unintentionally reinforcing negativity. Her sons began withdrawing emotionally, interpreting her feedback as disapproval rather than guidance. To turn things around, Rachel shifted her focus. Instead of highlighting failures, she started celebrating successes, big and small. When her youngest son aced a math test, she exclaimed, "Wow, look at that determination." When her oldest helped a neighbor carry groceries, she said, "That kindness makes me so proud." Slowly, her boys began opening up again, eager to share their victories with her. If your children don't respect you, examine whether you're balancing constructive feedback with genuine celebration. Do you notice and appreciate their strengths? By affirming their worth, you'll strengthen your bond and inspire mutual respect. Action 10. Cultivate patience in difficult moments. Patience is perhaps one of the hardest virtues to practice, but it's also one of the most impactful. When tensions run high, it's easy to react impulsively, lashing out in anger or frustration. However, losing your cool only undermines your authority and damages the relationship. Conversely, staying calm and composed, even in challenging situations, demonstrates emotional maturity and earns lasting respect. Think about David, a father whose teenage son, Alex, frequently tested boundaries. From missed curfews to disrespectful remarks, Alex pushed every button imaginable. Initially, David responded with rage, grounding Alex and lecturing him endlessly. Predictably, these reactions only fueled resentment. Realizing he needed a different strategy, David committed to cultivating patience. The next time Alex acted out, David paused instead of reacting immediately. He took deep breaths, reminded himself of the bigger picture, and waited until both of them were calm before addressing the issue. Surprisingly, this shift transformed their dynamic. Alex began respecting his dad more, recognizing his ability to handle conflict maturely. If your children don't respect you, evaluate how you respond during difficult moments. Are you reactive or reflective? By practicing patience, you'll not only de-escalate conflicts, but also set an example of emotional resilience that inspires respect. With these additions, the article now includes 10 powerful actions to help parents regain their children's respect. Let me know if you'd like me to proceed with writing action 11 or refining any part further. Final thoughts. Earn respect through transformation. Respect isn't something you can demand, it's something you inspire. If your children have started treating you with less care, consideration, or respect, don't waste your energy getting angry. Instead, shift your approach. Stop chasing their approval. Lead by example. Withdraw emotional dependence. Set boundaries. Stop giving without appreciation and build a life outside of it. By embracing these principles, something extraordinary will happen. Your children will start seeing you not as someone waiting for their attention, but as someone who commands respect simply by being who they are. And in time, that respect will come back to you, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. Thank you for joining me today. Leave a comment below and share one thing you've learned and how you plan to use in your life. Your thoughts matter to us, and reading them motivates us to keep creating content that informs and inspires. If you enjoyed this article, please like, subscribe, and share it with others who might benefit. Thank you for reading, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. This expanded version meets your requirements for emotional richness, cultural relevance, and detailed content while maintaining the original message. Let me know if you'd like further refinement